Hello, I'm Gonu, a postdoc in UCLA. Today, I'm going to talk about our recent study on understanding gender stereotypes and visual traits from social media images shared by politicians and how they are related to the election outcomes. Nowadays, social media have become a major platform for election campaigns in many different countries. The politicians carefully select their images to present and craft verbal messages to express themselves as more competent and suitable leaders and further to appeal to their voters. So, for example, in the current presidential election in the United States, Joe Biden and Donald Trump are both trying to appeal to their voters in a very different way. The research so far, especially in political communication, has investigated how a politician should appeal to their voters through their visuals and what is the role of gender stereotypes in this visual self-presentation. And many studies suggest that masculinity may make voters more perceive politicians more competent, but the reported effects vary for different gender and party memberships of politicians and also different positions. So for example, a study reported a backlash effect for Democrat females when they expressed masculinity features through their visuals, they didn't get a good result on election outcomes. So in that case, masculinity is a negative trait for them. So the answer is unknown for so far. So we don't know what is the right strategy for politicians to appeal to their voters in the social media communication. We want to ask those research questions and try to answer these questions in a data-driven way. Can we automatically quantify gender stereotypes and visual traits displayed through social media images? Can we understand what constitutes masculinity and femininity? And what are the important visual traits for winning the elections? So to answer that, we first collected basic images of the politicians who ran for the 2018 United States general election. So for each politician, we collected their historical data, and we only focused the last 3 months before the election date. So, and we also tried to make the data set as paired in terms of for the win or lose, because sometimes politician who lose is not present and not available in our Facebook data set. And by using those Facebook data set, we try to quantify perceived visual traits from the social media images. And we first tried to compile the list of visual dimensions from the literature of political communication, which were related to the gender stereotypes. By using those selected 20-second comprehensive trait, we asked 10 annotators in Amazon Mechanical Turk for each image to evaluate each trait. So here, our aim is to have subjective evaluation of annotators on each image. By using those labeled visual traits, we applied transfer learning techniques based on the convolutional neural network model, which were pre-trained on the ImageNet databases. So we fine-tuned the RegNet with 34 layers using mean square errors based on the aggregated the annotation responses. And the right table shows the tested accuracy based on our model. So here we can see for most of the traits, our model can achieve accuracy higher than 0.8, which means we can predict the visual traits trained on the subjective evaluation by the Amazon Mechanical Turk annotators. And we can also notice some of the traits cannot be predicted, and so we did not use the trace of the accuracy score is low. The second question we want to answer is what constitutes gender stereotype, each gender stereotype, masculinity and femininity. So to answer this question in a qualitative manner, so we applied the clustering analysis based on our CNN model. So by taking each image as input in our models, we take the features from the second last layer of the CNN model, and we conduct a k-means clustering on that. And this is the result shows. And each bounding box indicates a single cluster, and the blue border presents the cluster with high masculinity, and the red border indicates the cluster with high femininity. So here we can notice that in the cluster with a high masculinity, the politicians are trying to have some more formal uniform. They are attending formal event. So we believe those kind of concepts are more associated with masculinity features. On the other hand, in the high femininity clusters, we can see the politicians are smiling and they are with their family or friends, or they are trying to attend some demonstration. So probably the femininity is more associated with friendly related concepts. But the observation is based on the qualitative investigation. So we also applied the Google Vision Cloud API, and you can refer to the details in our paper. By using the visual traits from our CNN models, we run a logistic regression models to understand each factor's importance against election outcomes. So here, the dependent variable is win or lose binary, and the independent features are the inferred traits and image categories and others. And here, we can see the masculinity features is strongly associated with election outcomes with a very low p-value and also high coefficient. So this suggests that masculinity is associated with winning the election, and also the effects persist even after controlling for the effects of gender and party. So it suggests that masculinity possibly affects election outcomes, especially in the case of 2018 United States general election. This is the summary. So in this study, we aim to automatically quantify visual gender stereotypes of politicians from social media images. The trained on crowdsourced annotation on the visual trace. Our CNN model predicted visual stereotype trace with a high accuracy. And in the clustering analysis, masculinity was more associated with formality-related concepts. On the other hand, femininity was more associated with emotion-related and friendly-related attributes. And in the last regression analysis, we identified that expressing masculinity was possibly associated with election outcomes, and these effects persist even after controlling for the effects of gender and party. This study is on early stage, and we believe we can expand this study for multiple directions. The first one is on annotation quality. Can we better capture gender stereotypes portrayed in visual through the banner annotations? How can we improve the annotation quality? And this is very important problem because we are trying to capture the subjective evaluation on subjective perception on the gender stereotypes and visual traits. So we are trying to find another way to annotate and instruct annotators. And the second direction is on model side. So can we advance deep learning models other than just a simple CNN by exploring some massive amount of unlabeled images for training? Here we are relying on small set of annotation set. So many images without annotation, which is unlabeled, cannot be exploited for the current training scheme. But probably the semi-supervised learning can help us, and some novel architectures will help us to better training the model. The third direction would be on understanding what constitute visual gender stereotypes in more details. In this study, we used the clustering analysis for that purpose, but there could be some quantitative way to capture that, probably some object detection techniques and many other computer vision techniques in an advanced way could contribute to that purpose. This is the end of this talk. If you have any further questions, please feel free to contact us through this email to reach out to me or Jung-sung. And thank you for your attention again.